This morning when I woke up, there were 6,000 bays in our dealerships with no technicians. So can't get my car fixed. Nope. 2 weeks. Average wait is 2 weeks. Not because we don't have the parts, we don't have the mechanics. Factory workers, construction workers, farmers, all the people that move things, truck drivers, rail workers, and people who fix things, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, all the people that basically work with their hands.
Why is there a shortage of these workers?
Well, it's a complicated problem, but there is, let's put it that way, literally 1 million openings right now. Technicians in dealerships working on cars. At Ford, we have 6,000, probably 400,000 repair technician shortages across the economy. First of all, the productivity has not caught up with the white collar. In fact, it's gone down over the last 20 years. Number two, the jobs aren't as glamorous as a white collar job from college. And I think the permitting and all the regulations has really stunted the growth of these kind of jobs.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and notification bell so you don't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the wide world of corporate contradictions and real-world consequences. Now, today's topic, Ford can't find technicians. Yep, you heard that right. Now, the same Ford that's been around for over a century, the same Ford that brags about innovation and build stuff, is now saying they can't find enough skilled hands to fix or service their vehicles. The CEO himself admitted this in an interview. But here's the kicker. The problem might not be the lack of technicians. It might be Ford itself. So Ford is surprised technicians don't want to work for them. Like that friend who keeps wondering why they're single but refuses to change anything about themselves. So let's dig into why Fords cry and shortage while pushing away the very people they need the most.
So I'm watching the Ford CEO say, we don't have any mechanics. We can't get anything fixed. You know, it's funny. What do they think is going to happen if they continue to let the economy run the way it's running? To become a mechanic, you got to take up trade school. To take up trade school, you got to go full-time. Even part-time is damn near full-time, but you got to go full-time. You got to take out debt to pay for the trade school. Then you have to have experience because most places don't want to hire anybody with experience coming fresh out of anything. You know, whatever it is, electricians, construction workers, just general laborers, no one wants to pay. And then you go through all this trouble, and if you can find a position, let's say at a Ford dealership, they want to pay a tech $19 an hour, $21 an hour when you're, you know, however much in debt, wherever you're from. Is obviously every trade school is going to have a different, you know, price. But the point is the same. You go through all this effort, you rack up all this debt, because if you can't go to work, you need more debt to survive. If you're not fortunate enough to have, you know, parents or family, you know, if you don't have anyone to help you out, you got to stay somewhere, right? It's a fascinating thing. Mechanics don't want to work. And I know this because I see it everywhere. It doesn't matter what dealership you go to. There are no mechanics. Nobody wants to do these things. Well, excuse me. People want to do these things. They just financially can't. So what do you do? How do you continue this economy? I don't know. What do you guys think?
All right, Vato. Let's do this.
All right.
So we saw a video of the fucking Ford CEO saying that there's a shortage of technicians. That they have 6,000 empty bays. And he understands why now. So here's your fucking answer, dude. This is why.
This is why. Your answer is because you charge an insane door rate. Technicians don't take home even a third of that usually. You make junk vehicles. I mean, and your labor times suck. They're usually less than half of what it takes to do your job.
Yeah. So take into consideration that we have to buy our own freaking tools. That's one. Two, your warranty times are shit. If an engine replacement pays 25 hours under customer pay, and then we go do it under warranty, it's freaking 10 hours. So you're screwing us up. You're supposedly helping out the customer at the cost of the technician's paycheck. So yes, that's the freaking reason why, not because your other stupid reasons that you mentioned.
Right. That, and on top of overcomplicating simple things that you've had for years that have worked well, you constantly reinvent the wheel, model to model, year to year. making repairs more lengthy and difficult for technicians. That's why everybody's leaving the industry. Pretty simple.
If you guys fix your reasons why there's a shortage of technicians, there wouldn't be a shortage. So this has nothing to do with colors, white or blue. If the pay was fair and everything else that comes with it was fair, then there wouldn't be a shortage on any freaking industry.
The end.
Adios, mofos.
Because we don't have the parts, we don't have the mechanics.
Dear Mr. Farley, I hope this message finds you well. While I don't directly work for Ford, I think I can speak collectively for the technicians in the United States. Let's start with one thing that you can help us with. We as technicians are forced to work flat rate. And when warranty time is constantly being lowered, it doesn't make sense for technicians to be forced to work on a system where the faster they work, the better they work, the more money and the more hours and the more time they can get paid. But then warranty will then automatically just reduce time, and you're getting paid tenths on the dollar to do a job that should pay 2 to 3 hours because warranty is trying to cut their costs and save money. It just doesn't make sense for technicians to be forced on a system that they rely so heavily on warranty for. Let's start with another one, the flat rate system. Just like I spoke, we're forced to work a system where we have to put in the time, we have to put in the effort, and it doesn't always reap the benefits. We're stuck in a system where we're being forced to work 10, 12, 14-hour days and 5-6 days a week. There are so many alternatives to this, which I'd love to speak to you about and provide a future for technicians where we're not forced to work this flat rate system that is ultimately not benefiting us. All right, the third one, pretty easy here, career progression. It used to be there was a clear path from lube tech to service manager. There's plenty of success stories of this, not enough actually. Now, there's guys in the industry, 20, 30 years who just don't want to be a technician anymore because there's no progression for them. They've been stuck as a tech for too long, their bodies are broken down, and they're completely having to leave the trade. They're becoming negative about the dealership environment or the technician environment simply because they've just been stuck in a shop for so long. There was no progression for them. And I think you spoke about it in this interview about how we need to create a pipeline. And I think that pipeline can still apply to the veterans in the industry. How can we get those people from trade school or high school up to service managers? What's that path look like? It sounds like you're very interested in addressing this situation, and I hope that you and I can speak on it because I know there's an extreme room for growth in this industry. There's so much room for growth, and I hope that we can talk about it in the near future. Somebody has to begin this change, and I believe that Ford is a perfect company to lead the charge, not just for technicians, mechanics, but all skilled laborers. Just as you spoke, there needs to be a change, and this is the perfect time for it.
I just saw the Ford CEO complaining that there's 6,000 bays with no technician. Yeah, no fucking shit, bruh. Every dealership's making like $200 an hour off of those guys, and those guys are only seeing like $19 or $20 an hour maybe. And then they have to pay for their tools, and they got a freaking $20,000 toolbox, which you don't need to do. They did that to themselves, but still, it's not the point. No one wants to work for these companies anymore. No one wants to be a labor slave. Like, that's why you don't have techs, bro.
This morning when I woke up, there were 6,000 bays in our dealerships with no technicians. So can't get my car fixed. Nope.
Here's a thought. Pay them. Why don't you just fucking pay them? Like, I feel like CEOs get raises every year when their company or business is failing. How the fuck is that even possible? If you have a failing business, how the fuck are you getting a raise and you don't have any damn mechanics? Pay them.
Hello, it's Mechanic Link. I had a 4-minute video that just got corrupted. So I'm doing this all over again, and it's not going to be as good as the first time. This is Jim Farley, CEO of Ford. He had an interview with Yahoo Finances, in which he discussed the difficulties of the automotive industry. And his main gripe is that there is a technician shortage. And he's right, nationwide we have a technician shortage of around 800,000. He also mentions other blue-collar industries are also having shortages. Plumbers, HVAC, welders, electricians, everyone is facing shortages. However, what he fails to mention are people from the automotive industry are fleeing their field to other fields to become plumbers, HVAC, electricians, welders. He then goes on to list 3 reasons why he believes there is a shortage. One, the blue-collar industry is not as appealing as the white-collar industry. Oh yeah, we're going to come back to that one. He also says productivity amongst auto mechanics has gone down. Has productivity really gone down? Or has the difficulty gone up and the wages stayed the same? And lastly, he says rules and regulations are preventing people from getting into the automotive industry. He's not wrong, but he got the right answer for the wrong reasons. Your older technicians are retiring, and there's not enough new kids to replace them. More people are leaning towards white collar than blue collar because you don't pay them. Now, that's always kind of been the case, but this is grossly ignorant. You're expecting kids fresh out of high school to be working on cars at wages from 1980, $9, $10, $11 an hour, when today you can work at Chick-fil-A for $17 an hour. And you expect them to buy their own tools. You took away pensions, you have them on slave wages. For those who can actually survive and make it into flat rate, you have warranty rates, which frankly, in my opinion, is just straight up theft. You buy cheap parts from countries like Pakistan. You buy expensive tech and microchips from countries like Singapore or Taiwan. You jam-pack it into a poorly designed vehicle. You hike up the MSRP. And when those vehicles fail, but they're covered under warranty, you nickel and dime the mechanics due to warranty flat rate. Wages are stagnant. This is all you really care about, making sure that that stock goes up. A lot of technicians don't get pay raises, they just get pizza parties. You keep jamming more technology into these vehicles, and these technicians need to be gods for every year, make, and model. With information that you have black boxed, and you sell some of the information for a subscription, but just enough so that you can avoid the Right to Repair Act. Now, I don't work at a dealership, but I have heard enough stories. And you make the technicians do all sorts of free garbage. Yeah, doing those videos for customer service, yeah, there's no flat rate on those. Oh, and how you manipulate the flat rate books. I'm sorry, I'm rambling and I don't have my thoughts together. This is the simple breakdown. Difficulty has gone up with technology. Pay has stayed the same. Benefits have gone down. Cost of living has gone up, which means the buying power of our wages has gone down. As people retire, fewer technicians in the work pool. Young kids don't want to be technicians because you don't pay them. To solve the technician shortage, all the manufacturers would have to come together to make the industry more appealing. So Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, you alone are not able to solve the technician shortage. However, I can tell you how to get the cream of the crop. Build a quality and durable product that will outlast your warranties. Something appealing to customers, but also can be backed by mechanics. You want people to say it never dies versus found on road dead. And then pay your technicians properly. In my mind, entry level needs to be like $25 an hour. You're trusting these new hires with things like oil changes, batteries, tires, on vehicles that are worth tens of thousands. Pizza parties don't cut it. Flat rate and warranty flat rate needs to be tossed right out the window. It made sense 20, 25 years ago, but when difficulty is exponential, the amount of time it takes to solve a problem is also exponential. Some of you might be thinking productivity will go down because we got rid of flat rate and people are just hourly. Hate to burst your bubble, but productivity will only go down on the bad technicians who don't give a damn. I know you think that there is a shortage of workers in the automotive industry. Let me ask you this. Do you think that there is a shortage of workers in the C-suites? And if not, why?
Number two, the jobs aren't as glamorous as a white-collar job from college.
I think that might be the most shocking statement that he made in that entire interview. Like, dude, do you think that we're being mechanics because we want glamorous? And second of all, are you saying I'm not?
The Ford CEO was complaining about they don't have enough mechanics on staff. So become a mechanic, and you guys already freaking know this too. So you go to like a trade school, 1 to 2 years, just depend on what you go to. It's going to cost roughly between $10,000 and $25,000, probably more. Just depends on the situation too. Then after you go over that, you go to Ford. They pay you $19 an hour. Homie, I can get a job right now working in lumber and get paid $20 an hour. And all I'm doing is monitor wood, make sure it's cut good, and it's production, right? So you just gotta keep moving and moving and moving. But mechanics, you're doing like 9 million other things as well on top of multitasking, and you're only getting paid 19 bucks. And you put out a loan for lumber. You could just Do this all day and they could hire you. While Ford is charging $200 per hour, they're paying mechanics only $19 an hour. Give me a break. Speaking of Ford, my Ford Escape is the one that took a dump on Monday. It's still in the shop. Fun shit.
To me, the funniest part of all this shit with the Ford CEO that's been all over my FYP for the last few days is that anyone from Ford or any manufacturer could pop into the comments of the original video or any video about it and find all the answers that they seek. But they won't, or they will and ignore it, and instead they'll go, I don't know, hire McKinstry, pay them like $50 million to come up with some dystopian fuck-ass scheme where they're like, well, the real problem is that if you know how little you're getting paid under warranty, then you're upset about it. So we'll just change warranty to be a black box and then randomly just spit labor hours out or something. I don't know. They'll come up with the worst possible solution, accelerate the issue, and then stand around and be like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know what's happening. So confused.
The CEO of Ford says that it is very hard to get your car fixed right now. He says 2 weeks. 2 weeks minimum is how long it takes to get your car fixed. And it's not because they don't have the parts. He says it's because they don't have the mechanics. I'm going to share a clip of this interview, and I'd like you guys to listen to him talk about this. I find it so interesting how deeply disconnected these CEOs are from reality. There's a very simple reason why you do not have enough mechanics, enough plumbers, enough electricians, enough HVAC people running around this country right now. And that is because they don't get paid enough. Let's just start there. They don't get paid enough. And we live in a country that has spent the last few decades essentially demonizing jobs like that. How many times did you go to school and your parents tell you, you better get good grades or you'll end up being a plumber. You'll end up being an electrician. We have encouraged multiple generations of children to not look at skilled labor as a potential lucrative career for them in their adult life. And the reality is they're not. And these CEOs are a big reason for that. At no point in this conversation did he say, we need to pay these people more. We need to invest in these people more. No, he did what just about every CEO does. This is what all these CEOs do, all right? When they see shortages in their workforce, they blame the workers. They always say, people don't want to do this stuff. People aren't trying to work enough. People aren't trying to fill these positions. It's the people's fault. They're the ones who are not coming to do the things that we need them to do. But the reason they're not doing that is simple. You don't pay them enough. This will be the constant struggle between CEOs, millionaires, and the working class. These people in these big positions are going to keep saying, hey, I don't have enough. Where's everybody? I don't have enough. I don't have enough people to fill my quota. I don't have enough people to get the production. And the workers will constantly say, hey, we're not being paid enough. We're not being given the benefits. We're not being given the safety and the security that we are asking for in order to fulfill the production that you need from us. This doesn't have to be a long discussion. You don't have to go on Fox Business to try and break down why you can't find people to fill these positions. Pay them more, and I guarantee you will see things change.
So can't get my car fixed?
Nope. 2 weeks. Average wait is 2 weeks. Not because we don't have the parts, we don't have the mechanics.
He's telling the truth. They had my car 2 weeks on my truck, my Ford F-150 2021, bought new. In for recall and in for warranty work. Second catalytic converter that's being replaced. They already knew this. I'd already brought it in. The problem with the 2 weeks thing isn't the 2 weeks, isn't the lack of mechanics. We can understand that. Hey, we have a lack of mechanics right now. Let's schedule you time. Let's be in communication. Something to pivot from it just sitting there and you kicking the can down the street until you actually have time to work on it. The worst part about the 2 weeks thing is never once was it suggested it was going to take 2 weeks. I think I got told it might take a few days. And at that time, I was like, 3 days is too long. I'm going to need my loaner or my rent-a-car that is promised to me under my warranty. Well, I never got a rent-a-car. I never got a warranty, and they had it for 2 weeks. The problem here is that they don't communicate. The problem here is that they charge me every nickel and dime they could to use a credit card. I need to pay the transaction fee because, a A company like Ford and a place like a dealership is really hurting for that 3% that, hey, let's pass that back on to the customer. I run 2 small businesses, as you may know. I've never included a transaction fee in the total price of a product. That's called the cost of doing business. Don't take your cars to dealerships unless you're under warranty. Don't buy extended warranties. Find a mechanic you can trust, or ask a buddy if they have a mechanic that they trust and take it to them.
There were 6,000 bays in our dealerships with no technician. So
as a former mechanic and current registered nurse, keep in mind I still have all my toolboxes full of tools and parts. I saw that coming years ago when I made the swap from automotive to healthcare. And I want hospital CEOs to learn from the Ford CEO. You gotta value your clinicians, bro. Cause y'all are about to have 6,000 beds and no clinicians. Take it seriously, we're already saying it. We're already showing it. There's a nursing shortage. You can come back from that. We need adequate pay and we need safe staffing. Learn from the Ford CEO. Or else clinicians are just gonna do what the technicians do. Just go off and do their own thing. Seen it happen before? I'll see it happen again.
Ford CEO Jim Farley just told us exactly how out of touch he is. He had a grand epiphany about Gen Z and the broader blue-collar workforce, citing a labor shortage of around 400,000 or so technicians. He also cited a demand problem that younger people don't seem to want to go into the trades. In this grand investigation, Farley also uncovered that Ford employees are working as many as 3 jobs and no longer view Ford as a long-term career. Let's stop and take a step back and think about this. Why would any young person want to become a technician when the requirements are that you bring $15,000 of your own tools and have around 5 years of experience? On top of that, you have to watch as these service centers charge ridiculous hourly labor rates but pay you $19 an hour on a flat rate. The car market in the last few days has been in absolute shambles, and this is just another example of how a disconnected CEO has no clue what his employees are experiencing. What do you guys think? Leave it below.
this morning when I woke up, there were 6,000 bays in our dealerships with no technician.
So can't get my car fixed.
Nope.
What's up, everybody? So like you just saw or heard, there's a lot of nonsense from the CEO talking about no techs, and I've been seeing a lot of comments from many different guys trying to comment on that as well. And from what it looks like, most of those guys probably never worked a day in their life at the dealership, and they're probably mad at that fact, and they're probably just, going on a rant. And so the purpose of this video is to try to stay off of a rant as much as possible, because it's addictive, but really just kind of put out as much information based on my personal experience. Now, me myself, I do come from a Ford dealership. I worked at Ford for about 10 years, and I only worked at 2 different dealerships in my lifespan. That's where I dedicated my life. I didn't hop around, wasn't one of those hop around techs that went to all these different dealerships getting fired for flat rating and not being able to do their job properly or whatnot. I worked really well with my co-workers, and I had the pleasure of working under some awesome service managers, and I also worked under some shitty service managers, but we're gonna get into that. I think, in my personal opinion, based on my experience, the reason why they're having a hard time finding mechanics is not the lack of not being any mechanics. The reason why they can't keep any techs is not the flat rating either, and we'll get into flat rating as well. The reason why they're having a hard time keeping or having mechanics is the politics involving at the dealership and the lack of work at a dealership. Politics side, going back to their service managers at dealerships that have no reason to be there, but they know somebody that knows somebody, or they're cousins of a cousin, or they're related to somebody in the GM, and they're just put in that position for the most part. The other thing is that, if you don't know, most dealerships change service managers like they do underwear. Like, there's a different service manager going round and round just about all the time. So most service managers are so afraid to implement certain things because they're afraid to fail, because they're afraid they're about to lose their job. So you bring in a new manager thinking that, and techs think, or co-workers think that they're about to make some changes, and it doesn't really happen. They just keep going with the flow and nothing ever changes. Or if they do try to make changes, they're more worried about at the end of the week or at the end of the month when they get that big piece of paper that shows all their numbers, that their numbers are going to be lower than they were last week, and they're so worried about meeting those numbers that they forget on managing the people and taking care of the clients, because all they're worried about is meeting numbers. That's all you hear at a dealership from managers. All you hear is, what numbers did you hit? Numbers. It's a numbers game. That mentality is the reason why there isn't any work at dealerships, and that mentality is why most technicians are leaving dealerships these days. It's just the work isn't there. Getting into flat rating. Flat rating is awesome. I love it. I mean, most of our guys at our shop, all of our lead guys are flat rate. I never wanted to be limited by an hourly rate. If I go in making so much an hour and I'm working on all these different trucks, I'm still making the same. That I was plateaued, like I hit a limit. And I've always been that mentality of not having a limit. I didn't want to restrict myself from growing. If I put out so many works, I want to get paid on so many jobs. If I didn't, then I didn't. That's my fault or whatnot. You don't always hit it out the park, but I just never wanted that. I never wanted to be capped. I think honestly, if you're a mechanic that wants to be hourly, then you're a lazy mechanic. That's just my opinion. Whether I'm right or wrong, whatever. But that's just my opinion based on how I was brought up in the dealership world and on the mechanics that I was raised on. There wasn't any mechanics that I worked under that wanted to be hourly. They all liked the flag rate. They liked it. They were used to. I don't know if it's things that they were used to or not, but we all liked it. It's just the fact of not having the work. And what happens, going back to politics at a dealership, when a service manager is placed into a role that he doesn't belong in, he doesn't change, or he doesn't try to bring up shop morale, or he doesn't go out there, he doesn't have that hustler mentality of trying to go out there and get more work and offer clients deals to have us work on them. There's too many mouths to feed at a dealership, right? You have your service manager, your advisor, your technician, your parts manager, your parts guy. Everybody's trying to make a dime out of every one of those charged hours or every markup on a part there, and that the person that ends up suffering from that is the client, and the client says, screw this, I'm just going to take my money elsewhere. So that's really the main issue. Until you fix that poison in the dealership, until you say, hey, you know what, enough is enough, we need to start focusing on the actual client and stop focusing on what that piece of paper says, what that number says on a Monday or whenever the hell they do their little fucking monthly meetings or weekly meetings. Until they scratch that mentality and start focusing back into the client, it's never going to change. Technicians will come and go. What's going to end up happening, or what has happened, especially during the time that I was there, is diesel shortage. These technicians have been in a shortage for a long period of time, but the problem is that a service manager only wants to hire a technician that they can keep under their thumb, a guy that they can control, because an actual technician with a good brain is gonna know whether that manager is doing a good job or not, because a technician with a good brain can put two and two together and say, hey, this isn't right, or hey, we don't have enough work for me to feed my family, and you're not doing anything about it. You're just sitting in your chair in your office hoping for something to change, and nothing's changing. And when you do come out to try to talk to us, you don't come out to try to inspire us. You just come out and start pointing fingers at different places. Like the dealership that I left from, craziest thing I ever heard, the mentality. This is me. I was 29 when I left the dealership. And I told my manager straight up, hey, you know what? I'm done with the dealership life. I want to go into my own business. I want to start doing my own thing. I didn't sit there and try to sugarcoat it. And this damn manager pretty much black labeled me, or whatever you want to call it, as the reason why the dealership doesn't have business is because of people like me that want to go into our own shop. And this guy would do anything and everything to try to make my life a living hell, even after I left the dealership, because I would still do business with that dealership, in parts purchasing, and I still tried to keep mingle with, because that dealership, man, the co-workers were awesome, the people there were great, and I liked it. It was like a little family, it's a family away from family, right? And this guy would try to make my life miserable, because he would tell people I was the reason why the dealership didn't have any money or didn't have any work, because of guys like me. You're talking about a multi-million-dollar facility dealership versus a little bitty guy like me. I'm a fucking cockroach. I'm the bottom of the barrel, and you're sitting there telling your mechanics that I'm the reason. Like, that was stupid, but that's the mentality, that poison the politics at a dealership. That is the reason why you don't have any technicians. That is it. It's until you fix that. Stop looking at your clients as a number and look at your clients as people, and you start hustling for the work. Have something to offer instead of sitting in your ass waiting for things to work until that Ford CEO realizes that, hey, the problem is in the management of the dealerships. You're never gonna fix it. I'm sorry to say, sometimes they say to fix something you have to start from the bottom and build back up, but sometimes you have to just tear the shit down from the top to the bottom. Tear it all down and start it all back up with a new mentality focused on your clients, and you won't have any issues. You're gonna have the workflow, because one thing about technicians is most technicians that are flag hour, we're hungry. We want to be where the work is at. That's where we want to be at. So, a little bit of an insight. I did go on a little bit of rant, but who cares? Just my 2 cents. So
here's the thing. There isn't exactly a shortage of people interested in cars, in mechanics, or in skilled trades. The issue is, what are they being offered? Technicians today are expected to know traditional mechanics and advanced electronics. Cars are no longer just engines and gears. They are rolling computers with AI systems, EV batteries, and complex sensors. Yet, the pay for many technicians barely keeps up with the inflation. Some Ford techs reportedly earn less than fast food managers, but are responsible for fixing vehicles that cost more than entire houses. Let that sink in. You are expected to have years of training, certifications, and your own expensive tools. And Ford offers wages that make it hard to even afford one of their cars. But that's not all. Ford's policies don't exactly make the technician's life easy. Tight service timing, unrealistic performance metrics, and lack of career advancement makes many feel like disposable labor instead of skilled professionals. It's like Ford wants high-tech talent at low-tech pay. And now, Ford's CEO is scratching his head, wondering why there's a technician shortage. Sir, maybe look in the mirror. The problem is, in the paychecks, not in the population. And let's talk about the electric vehicles, EV transmission, or the EV transition. Now, Ford keeps pushing EV production, which is great for the planet actually, but they've done almost nothing to properly train or support technicians for this shift. EV repairs requires entirely new skills, safety protocols, and tools. Instead of investing in robust technician education programs, Ford's been cutting corners and hoping someone else will fill in the gap. It's like trying to play the Super Bowl with no practice, no coach, and half a team. But blame the players when it all falls apart. So maybe Ford thought technicians would just magically appear like EV fairies with wrenches in hand, ready to fix $80,000 electric trucks for $20 an hour. Shocking that that reality doesn't work that way, huh? At the end of the day, Ford doesn't have a technician shortage. They have a respect shortage. A shortage of fair wages, training, investment, and recognition for the people who literally keep their customers on the road. If Ford wants to attract more technicians, maybe it's time to treat them like the backbone of the brand, not the background noise. Because let's be honest, without skilled techs, all those shiny new F-150s and Mustangs are just expensive lawn ornaments. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to click on the like button, share this video, and subscribe for more weekly commentaries on businesses, culture, and accountability. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Ford's shortage is really about the labor market, or about how they treat their workers? Should big companies like Ford be required to invest in skilled trade education if they depend on it so heavily? And for any technician watching, what's the real story on the ground? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get this conversation rolling. Up until next time, take care and drive safe. Credit belongs to original creators. I'll see you on my next video. Thank you, guys.